more importantly with the citizens all across the world, and in particular the European Union. This symbolises an awful lot, not just peace, but also our unity, hands together for peace and security in the world and across the continent. But we'll hear more about that by the person who created this wonderful, getting the Star of Unity here to Cardiff. And I just want to take a moment to remember him and all the wonderful work that he did, not just for Wales for Europe, but for Welsh Labour for Europe, and so many other organisations that are pro-European. Just a moment of silence.
The sculptor who had made all of the large satirical floats that appeared in the marches throughout the previous 7 years to make a star, a large star, so that it could provide a talisman for us as we seek to go back into the European Union. And of course, making such a star, you have to identify what the values it represents are, is one of the fundamental values. And we wanted to establish that as a talisman which would help to bind together all the people that wish to go back into the European Union. It'll be a long journey and we need something to hold us together. So what we have started to do in the last few weeks is to have a campaign which we call Choosing Our Future, which will encourage discussion of where the future lies for the UK.
European Union.
Diolch Jackie and prynawn da pawb, and diolch yn fawr iawn am y gwahoddiad. Thank you so much for the invitation to be here today. As Jackie said, I am a very strong supporter of Europe. I miss being in the European Union, and we really need that positive future when we can look forward to having greater relationships with the EU. I thought it was very noticeable that when it was announced that we would rejoin Horizon, all the researchers and scientists were so thrilled, and I just thought how awful that we were in this situation, that we were thrilled to rejoin something that we had been an intrinsic part of, that we were a result of a self-inflicted wound.
Yes.
And I think we just must look forward to the future, to discussing and building bridges, building the way ahead to the place where we rightly belong in Europe. So diolch yn fawr iawn and pob lwc, and I think that it's a great effort doing this today, and diolch Jackie.
Thank you very much, Julie. Diolch yn fawr iawn. And Julie sponsored today's events outside the Senate as well. I wanted to make clear that to everyone about that too. Thank you very much for it.
Germany MEP said, "We're looking after your staff for you. You will get it back." And it's so good to see it here physically. So thank you so much for everyone involved, and thank you for bringing it. I'll touch on climate change. I guess it goes with the job description, but it's the reason I'm so pleased to be optimistic about this is because we are in such challenging times at the moment. Multiple crises facing us. Obviously, the climate crisis, the climate emergency, but also the related energy crisis and the cost of living crisis, or as I prefer to call it, the cost of greed crisis. All of these issues damaging and hurting the weakest, most vulnerable in our communities across the country. And all of them made so much worse by the act of self-sabotage that was Brexit. Now, I had the misfortune of watching some of the Conservative Party conference a few weeks ago. It sort of goes with the job. And it was outrageous. Those architects of this disaster, minister after minister on the stage, proudly parading their incompetence and their cruelty. It's bad for our economy. And again, as I said, it is so bad for the weakest and poorest and most vulnerable in our society. And that is why we know it was built on lies and misinformation and manipulation of facts. That was why it was so galling to see those people celebrating their achievement. And with my climate change hat on, it's noticeable as well now. We all know the European Research Group, and we all know some of the think tanks. That's not just important for us. It's not just good for Britain, for Wales, England, Scotland, and Ireland. It's good for the EU to have our progressive voices in there, pushing to make the EU even better, sharing those values of hope and peace and unity. we can do this and we're going to do this. And it's thanks to campaigners like yourself. And I remember those years of campaigning, and I'm looking around wondering where the Brexitometer is.
And back together, I think it's going to be some of our greatest hits today as well. It is wonderful to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak. And we will sort out that Swansea University for Europe group as well. I'll put a little bit more pressure on Europe on the table. It allows parties, it allows politicians to forget about this issue and move on. And we've got to keep the issue on the table.
To the crowds in front of the Senate.
Diolch yn fawr. Mae'n bleser mawr gen i bod yma I siarad ar rhywbeth sydd yn agos iawn at yng nghalon ni ac I siarad yma ar ran Plaid Cymru. Mae'r blaid, mae'r dynion a'r merched fi oedd yn sylfaenwyr y blaid. These economic links, these so many, values which we share and which are embodied in this star. So what can we do? We can start to build a consensus. We can maintain these links with each other across political parties, across different movements, across different parts of these islands. But we can also call for steps now to try and build this consensus, to cut down trade barriers, to rejoin Erasmus, to give those opportunities to students and to academics and researchers, to renew these cultural links which have been disrupted by Brexit, and eventually to rejoin the single market. We must make that case as well. Now this place behind me doesn't yet have the power to do this, but it does give us a voice, and I'm very proud to stand here for Plaid to add our voice to this call for Europe. Diolch yn fawr.
Referred to there, but obviously Caroline is going to be speaking, and Charles and Quareg and the students as well, who have been absolutely tremendous in getting this off the ground and here, and always Joe, our organizer, who is somewhere, right there you are, sorry, and who works a lot on organising various events around Wales.
And he was a force of nature. He asked a lot of himself, and he asked a lot of us as well. He had a vision, he knew what needed to be done, and Jackie's already touched on the work that he did in Swansea, in Wales, and in the UK. Now then, Wales and UK and the European Union are a hugely different place from what they were in 2016. And as it has already been said, we've got to work our way back, step by step. And the whole point of this campaign, Ein Seren Ni, the Our Star, is for citizen engagement. We have to listen, we have to talk. We have to talk in cafes, like the Phoenix Community Cafe in Townhill, Swansea. We have to talk in the Cozy Corner Cafe on Porthcawl Front. We have to talk on all those areas in Merthyr Tydfil, from that Cynon Taf, with the EU-funded community projects, because that is where communities gather, and that is where we must go to talk to people about what they feel for their future.
Over the winter, we will be sharing those on social media just to raise awareness and remind everyone how much money has been invested in Wales over many, many years through European structural funds in particular. And I know the colleagues in Mid Wales and North Wales are very keen to have the star in the new year so they can do something similar.